The bee got her right behind the knee. I'd heard her yelp from 30 feet away, across the hay bales, over the sound of my truck engine ticking as it cooled. She'd been walking the fence line. This woman I'd never seen before in my life. And then she dropped like somebody cut her strings, one hand grabbing a post, the other slapping at the back of her leg. I didn't think. I just moved. She was sitting in the dirt by the time I got there, her dark hair loose around her face, fingers pressed hard behind her knee. The dress she wore, some kind of floral thing, more suited to a city patio than a cattle ranch, was bunched up around her thigh where she was holding pressure. I crouched down. "You need to stop pressing on it." She looked up at me like I was the threat. Brown eyes, wide. A scratch across her cheekbone, from where the wild rosebush caught her when she stumbled. "Fine," she said. Clipped. "The kind of fine that means the exact opposite." "You allergic?" She blinked. "To bee stings. You allergic?" A pause. "Too long. I don't know." Lord have mercy. I pulled my phone out. Checked signal. Nothing. Course nothing. We were 3/4 of a mile from the road, and this part of the Elkins property was a dead zone since before I could remember. Shh. I looked at her leg. The skin had already started to rise, pink and angry, a welt building fast just below the crease, behind her knee. "Swelling fast," I said. "Can you stand?" "I just told you I'm fine, yes." I held out my hand anyway. "Humor me." She took it. Her fingers were cold despite the July heat, which told me more than anything she'd said. Pulled her up slow, and she winced the second weight hit that leg. "Okay," I said. "Here's what we're going to do. My truck is right over there. I need to look at that sting. Get the stinger out if it's still in there, and put something on it. After that, if you're not showing signs of a reaction, we're going to town to be sure." "I don't need, ma'am," I said it quiet. I've seen a man go into anaphylactic shock from a single sting out in a pasture. He was fine 1 minute and his throat was closing the next. "I'm not trying to embarrass you or be dramatic. I'm just asking you to let me check." She looked at me for a long moment. Something in her face softened, not fully, just at the edges. "Claire," she said. "What, my name? Since you're apparently going to be very involved in my afternoon." I almost smiled. "Cole Waverly. This is my property." She looked at the fence, then back at me. "I thought this was the Elkins Ranch." "Was. 30 years. I bought it 14 months ago." I started walking her toward the truck, slow. Was she favoring the leg? "Explains why you're walking my fence line like you own it." "My grandmother did own it," she said. "Part of it. Before Herb Elkins bought her out in 1987. She said the man's name with the particular flatness people use when they're holding something back. "I used to come here summers when I was little. I just wanted to see if it looked the same." I opened the truck's back door, spread a shop cloth on the seat. "Does it?" She sat down, stared out at the low hills, the line of old cottonwoods running the creek. "Trees are bigger," she said softly. "Everything else is exactly the same. I've got a first aid kit behind the seat. It's not a small, neat drugstore thing. It's a proper kit, military surplus canvas bag. Because when you run cattle on 700 acres alone, you'd better be ready for something." I unzipped it, found the tweezers, the antiseptic, the Benadryl I'd started carrying 2 seasons ago after a ranch hand reacted to a wasp. "I need to see the sting," I said. "Pull your dress up, or pull it to the side, whichever's more comfortable. I just need to see behind your knee." She didn't make it dramatic. She just shifted the fabric, crouched down and looked. The stinger was still in there. Tiny, dark sliver, pulsing almost, still pumping venom. The skin around it had gone from pink to the beginnings of something angrier. I could see the swelling building in real time. I worked the stinger out careful with the tweezers. She made a small sound but didn't pull away. "That better?" I looked up. Her face was composed, but her jaw was tight. "Yes, thank you." I cleaned it, applied the antiseptic. Skin was warm under my fingers, despite how cold her hands were. I noticed a small scar on her calf, old and faint. The kind kids get from barbed wire. It made sense for a girl who spent summers on a working ranch. You're not reacting, I said, watching her face for the signs. Flushing, trouble breathing, anything in her expression beyond normal discomfort. But I want to give you Benadryl, and I want you to sit here for 15 minutes before we make any decisions. The corner of her mouth moved. You're on my property having a medical incident. That makes it a we. She took the Benadryl. Washed it down with the bottled water I handed her without being asked. The 15 minutes I was watching her turned into 45 because we started talking. That happens sometimes. You mean to say something practical, and it turns into something else entirely. She told me about her grandmother, Rosalie, who'd raised goats on the eastern edge of this land and made the best pan biscuits in Haskell County, and had to sell when the drought took 3 consecutive years, and she was 71 years old and out of options. Claire had been 9. She remembered driving away in the back seat of her mother's Buick, watching the house get small through the rear window, and not understanding then what she understood now, that some losses echo forward. I'm sorry, I said. And I meant it the way you mean it when someone tells you something real. She looked at the cottonwoods. She passed 2 years ago. I kept thinking I'd bring her back here someday. Show her it hadn't changed. She picked at the label on the water bottle. I waited too long. I didn't say the thing people say in those moments. The "it's not your fault," the "she knew you loved her." Those things are true, but they're also a kind of padding. What Claire was sitting with didn't need padding. Tell me what she was like, I said instead. And she did. For a long time she talked about Rosalie, the way she hummed when she cooked, off-key but confident, completely unbothered, the way she kept a coffee can of spare change by the door for the neighbor kids, how she could read weather by the way the cattle moved to the fence line, how she called everyone she loved lamb, even the men, even the ones who were 6 feet tall and didn't know what to do with the tenderness of it. At some point, I'd sat down in the open truck door across from her. At some point, the sun had moved. "Your leg feel okay?" I asked eventually. She stretched it out, flexed her knee. "Yeah, the swelling's down a little." "Good." I looked at the sky, estimated. "You drove here?" "Road's a mile that way," she pointed east. "Rental car." I nodded. "I'll walk you out." We walked slow. Evening was coming in. That particular quality of late summer light that makes everything look like it was painted in the hour before it was lost. The grass was gold. The shadows were long. She walked with a slight hitch in her step, but she wasn't favoring it the way she had been. Halfway to the road, she said, "You didn't have to do any of that. You were stung on my property. People aren't responsible for bee behavior." "No," I said. "You were a stranger hurting on land I'm responsible for." "That's close enough." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "What made you buy it? This place. It's a long way from everywhere." "That's what made me buy it," I said. She laughed. It was a real one. Surprised out of her, not performed. It changed her face entirely, made her younger and older at once, the way a real laugh does. Her rental car was parked on the gravel shoulder, a small white thing that looked exactly wrong against the landscape. She unlocked it, turned back. "Thank you, Cole." His name in her mouth, my name, the first time she'd used it, genuinely. "You should let someone know if any symptoms come back tonight. Chest tight, throat feels off, hives anywhere else." "I will." She looked at me. "I'm staying at the Route 9 motel. Just for tonight. I'm going back to Denver in the morning." I didn't say what I was thinking, which was that Denver was 7 hours from here, and that I didn't know her last name or her phone number, and that this was almost certainly the entirety of what this was going to be. A strange afternoon, a woman with her grandmother's losses, sitting in the back of my truck while the light went gold. "Drive safe," I said. She got in, started the engine. I walked back toward my fence line. She didn't leave. I was back at the barn doing the last of the evening water when the headlights swung in across my drive. 40 minutes later, I stood in the barn door and watched her get out of the car. "Dinner," she said, before I could speak. She held up a paper bag. From the diner in town I didn't know she'd driven to. I didn't know if you'd eaten, and it felt wrong to just leave. She stopped. I realize this is strange. It's not, I said. Just. We ate at the old picnic table beside the barn, in the dark except for the barn light, and the sky full of stars out here where there's nothing to wash them out. She'd gotten pie without asking if I wanted any, which meant she was the kind of person who knows pie is not optional at the end of a hard day. She told me about her job. Something in urban planning, redesigning spaces for cities. And I told her about the ranch, the cattle operation I was still building, the way this land had needed so much work when I bought it, and how that had been exactly what I needed at the time, without being able to explain fully why. She understood. She didn't need me to explain fully. Around 10 she said she really did have to go. Truck, she stopped. My last name is Fontaine, she said, in case you wanted to find that out somehow. I looked at her. Claire Fontaine. Yes, she was watching me. Cole Waverly, I said, in case you forgot. I didn't forget. The night was warm and still. Somewhere out in the pasture a calf called once and went quiet. Drive safe, I said again. You already said that. It bears repeating. She laughed again, that real one, and got in the car. 3 weeks later I was fixing the same stretch of fence. When the white rental car pulled up to the shoulder again, she got out and leaned against it. Blue dress this time. Boots, actual ones, brown leather. Like she'd done some preparation. You're back, I said. I had more vacation days than I realized, she said. I looked at her for a moment. She looked back. That bee got you pretty good, I said. And you came back. The bee, she said, was incidental. I set down the fence tool. She walked toward me through the tall grass, into the morning sun, and I met her halfway, when I put my arms around her. Not because she needed steadying, not because anything was wrong, just because it was the right thing to do. She settled against my chest the way a person does when they've been carrying something heavy for too long, and someone finally offers to share the weight. I felt her exhale. The land was quiet all around us. The cottonwoods moved. Her grandmother had loved this place. And here she was. And here I was. Sometimes things don't echo only with loss. Sometimes they come back around.